Okay, welcome back, mental health enthusiasts. This is our podcast, Ultimate Potential, a mental health podcast. And today I have, not that I'm ranking, but maybe the person that I feel the closest to so far of any other human being that I've ever had on this podcast. Karl Jensen is with us today. Karl and I have been together working in the trenches with kids for 30 years, over 30 years, almost 31, shoulder to shoulder. I think I may have learned more from Karl than any other professional. And so to me, it is just a huge honor to have you here on our podcast, Karl. And I'm looking forward to learning even more from you today. Before we do that, we'd love to just have you talk a little bit about history. Like where'd you get your start? What's your profession? And what do you do at Telos? As you know, kind of give you a little story about who you are.
Thank you for inviting me to share this time with you and those who are listening in. A recently returned missionary back in 1969, I came back with the intent of playing baseball at BYU.
Mm-hmm.
I had a scholarship.
But 1969.
Uh-huh.
That was the year I was born. That just tells you
Okay.
We're about the same age.
So I came back and school had already begun.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to change my plans, and with the intent of going in the spring and earning that scholarship back.
Yeah.
Well, plans change. And so I had the opportunity of going to work.
Okay.
To take care of my needs and to finance school. And my grandfather and my mother both worked at the Utah State Hospital in Provo, the mental insane asylum.
Yeah, that's what they called it, right?
Yeah, Utah Territorial Insane Asylum.
Mm-hmm.
And so in November, having even been home a month, I began my tour of duty at the Utah State Hospital. And probably one of the greatest and most educational experiences of my entire life
Mm-hmm.
was held there. And I worked there from 1969 through about the next 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
And started in the very low ranks of an attendant, an on-call attendant. And I would go in and on call and work with the maximum security patients.
Okay.
On the forensic unit. So I got a real awakening to the world of mental health really quickly. But I also began to work with some of the most unique, wonderful individuals on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were staff.
Yeah.
Most of them were the patients.
Yeah.
And so I worked there and as part of a way of getting through school. And I'd go to school during the day and then work in the afternoon and nights throughout my entire experience going to school. Never got back to playing baseball. Got married in the process and kept working there. And as I worked, I became more and more interested in the needs of these people. These had been committed to that facility because of very, very serious mental illnesses, schizophrenia, all types of difficult bipolar type illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
And working on the forensic unit afforded me the opportunity of learn about the legal ramifications of mental health, people who had committed serious crimes due to their mental condition.
Yep.
And so they would be sent there to go undergo an evaluation to see if they were competent to stand trial or to aid in their own defense. So learning about that put the information out there on the cutting edge of legal uh, systems for people being treated, as well as what was available for them. And in Utah back then, it was before there were county sponsored mental health centers. So if you were indeed need of serious mental health treatment, you would go to the state hospital.
That was where
under a
everybody.
commitment.
Yep.
And so that's where I spent the next years of my life. In the process, going to school, I wanted to be a physician. I wanted to do a lot of things. And I bounced around getting all the pre-med classes and everything. But I also found out that there was this need for these poor people that were there would never get out and do much. They were locked up. And so I thought, I'm going to take these folks out and we're going to start doing stuff. So my risk was you're taking responsibility and accountability to take these patients outside the building for a while.
Yeah.
And it worked. And they would come back and their mood and affect would be lightened and they'd be a little more manageable. That didn't do away with their mental issues, but it was a revelation to those around that human beings need to be nurtured in a way.
Yeah.
And activity did it. And I think that was when I decided I'm going to switch. I'm going to become a therapeutic recreation specialist. I loved activities. I coached sports. It was right up the alley. I liked education.
Right.
And the health field. And so I went and completed my degree at Brigham Young University in therapeutic recreation management, and then went back later and got a master's degree, sponsored by that hospital.
Okay.
And when I came back, I had that master's degree. I became the director of the forensic unit.
Okay.
I became the administrator of that. And under the direction of the doctor of the hospital, who was one of the most incredible individuals I'd ever met in life. His name was Roger Sylvester Kiger.
Okay.
Dr. Kiger. And he was a military man. He was regimented. He was strict. And he was brilliant. And he knew how to hold boundaries.
Yeah.
And he knew how to elicit loyalty from people that were impaired.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is really good. And I'd follow him around and I'd listen to him, and we'd have clinical meetings every morning, and I would sit in there and listen to him and watch him. And I thought, that guy knows his stuff. But one thing that he had very difficult time with was the boundary of giving patients more opportunity to get out and do stuff.
Yeah.
And but there's more than one way to skin a cat. I became really close friends with his wife.
Okay.
And so decided to take this group of patients from the maximum security unit camping.
Okay. That sounds like Karl I know.
And made the plans. And he said, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. And on one occasion, we were just ready to go out the door, and all these folks were excited. And he come in and said, you're not going. Just that's it. Never even gave a word why. And all of us just were appalled. He knew what he was doing. He rallied all of us to be united.
Yeah.
Against his direction.
Mm-hmm.
And So everyone became more focused on doing their jobs there, taking care of their hygiene, the little things that mattered. And I have just observed how setting that boundary and having the insight why he did it worked so wonderfully well. We planned for another camping trip. And he said, okay, you guys go. And I said, would you please come? Please come and just share the evening with us. No, I have other things to do. But like I said, I formed a relationship with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to his home unbeknownst to him and talked to his wife. And I invited her and him
Mm-hmm.
through her
Yeah.
to come and see those patients and share that evening up Fairview Canyon in a place called Flat Canyon Campground. It was isolated, but it was beautiful. And so we pulled that off. And Dr. Kiger showed up with his wife, and his wife was just thrilled with this.
Yeah.
She just couldn't be happier to see all these folks out taking care of themselves in a normal, natural way, like anyone else, behaving,
Mm-hmm.
which was the great concern. Well, bit by bit, over a period of time, using activity therapy, the experiential part of it became a very, very powerful tool. And I was able to do my master's thesis on the impact of rigorous physical activity on the pathology of certain people. And with some help of some real brilliant people, pulled that off and learned some incredible things.
Mm-hmm.
And that propelled me into more of the clinical, the help side with the science behind it, not just how I felt, but to really make things stick. That giving them opportunities to engage in this rigorous physical activity, the impact helped them stay healthy longer. They would remember it. And, if I told you and we had a talk and a week later, I'd be wondering, what did we talk about? Well, I could go to them, these folks, months later, and they remembered how they felt and how they were able to succeed. So it had a lasting impact on them, not to mention clinically helping them to become more stable. Now, it wasn't curative,
Mm-hmm.
but it was very, very helpful in their healing and stabilizing process. And I stayed there for about 14 years, and then I got a chance to own my own business. And I thought, I'm ready for a change. This has been a long haul.
Yeah.
And I bought a little business in Springville, a little convenience store, and owned that for about 3 or 4 years. Learned some vital lessons there about managing and business and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And your best laid plans sometimes
They don't work out.
they don't work out because there are factors beyond your control. Back then, there was an organization. We pump fuel, and along come OPEC, the cartels of the Mideast, and they controlled all the fuel.
Yeah.
And so there was a factor beyond my control. And I said, "No, this is, you lose money every night you go to bed." And I sold it, and I thought, what am I going to do? And there was always something available, I found. And I worked for a while for Utah County for the Tip Mental Health.
Mm-hmm.
I would go there and do the therapeutic recreation, but also help set up programs.
Right.
Sprinting ahead, a knock came at my door. A phone call came from one Craig Lamont and invited me to join he and his partner, Mark McGregor, and their wives to talk about an opportunity that he was willing to begin. And it was the start of a girls' treatment facility, which was really neat and challenging. But it was based on the family systems and using the holistic approach to clinical treatment. And that captured my imagination and my full-hearted support. And to watch a fledgling business emerge, but what's the impact on people? Now, what ties all this together, if you're talking about how I end up in some of the things that are really important to me, was as I learned of each of these young people, I could find that I learned that something doesn't come from nothing. There is always a reason things are the way they are, including from the very first student that we had over there.
Mm-hmm.
There were contributing factors that would also oftentimes blindside these young people. And if you want to use the word trauma, you can, varying degrees of it, but it would blueprint their lives. The exceptional amount of stress and the factors from divorce to bullying to not being understood. Also, throwing in the fact that there were uh, elements such as, autism
Mm-hmm.
and, of course, anxiety and depression, which was the focus.
Right.
But why was there anxiety and why was there depression? And as I began to focus, a combination of my own life's experience began to parallel my work experiences. There were events that were difficult in my life, loss of family members, parents, and others that made me face grief, loss, and other things, and yet keep going. And so I drew upon my own experiences and the support and began to realize that this happens to everyone. No matter how good you live and how keen you are in adherence to morals or principles or spiritual beliefs, bad things happen to people.
Yeah.
Adversity rears its ugly head. And for a long time, I thought, what difference does it make? I began to realize that it was actually blueprinting my life
Yeah.
and my attitudes. And I thought, and I talked with my wife, and I just realized that the experiences of my own life, the adversities, I had a choice, as everyone does. And the power of my own agency would be what drives the outcome of what I want my life to be. That was impacted by traumatic experiences. Not all things, not all illnesses, not all depression or anxiety are driven by that. Not all addictions. But as I began to work with some of the young women,
Mm-hmm.
in particularly, I found that they were experiencing grave trauma of abuse just because they were female.
Mm-hmm.
And they were living in families where it was perpetuated. And there were systems in those families that were not healthy at all. And so back then when we were working at the girls program, uh, we decided we needed someone and a process to treat that. And we started Survivors.
Mm-hmm.
We also started family days.
And when you say survivors, you mean a therapeutic program, group processing system that you led and have been leading ever since, right? Where our students can come together, and those that have trauma and hard times, and just really dig deep into grief and trauma and surviving. You call it survivors because
Right.
the focus is on making it through, right?
Right.
Thriving because of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we can, in our own lives, we can survive. We can just get by, which is not enough. It's bordering not existing.
Yeah.
And some of those young people were that way. And I found that through close observation and connection, they would tell you things that they didn't think they even knew about.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that, they began to heal. Because what they were doing was identifying the reality of what really was in their life, the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably the first principle of healing, be able to recognize and identify the reality of what is in a person's life. And not just that, but what purpose does that do? So looking at that, again, something doesn't come from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
What is the something? What is causing this? What is the primary focus, not the secondary? And I started to find out addictions, uh, both to substances, to anything,
Mm-hmm.
were kind of byproducts of having to deal emotionally with things that weren't right. And that's where the healing began. And so the entire focus of the survivors was not to get by, but was to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And the system that you and Mark, your partners, had designed, that family systems, drew upon that whole power, that essence of drawing from the family the ability to heal using their own agency.
Yeah.
And so it was a constant learning experience for me. And I would find myself hearing things that I never even realized existed in the world in which I was raised,
Yeah.
that was happening to these young women. And so it was a test on my own nature,
Yeah.
but I saw in their faces the need for to be believed and to be loved, because the first casualty that I realized was their own self-worth as a human being. And so I also gleaned from that things that I believed, that everyone is a divine
Mm-hmm.
creation and their lives were infinitely important. And no matter what had happened to them, whether or not they thought their innocence had been stolen from them, which in fact it had in some cases,
Mm-hmm.
that there was a pathway to heal and to grow, and a power that would come to them if they would allow it. And the very thing that became the stumbling block in their lives, in some cases it was life threatening,
Right.
became an element to help them grow. And I think one of the beautiful things about Telos now is the fact that clinicians, parents were educated more to that process.
Yeah.
Now, what worked with them for me was the connection. I could connect with those young people and their parents,
Mm-hmm.
And drawing back on the boundary thing that I had learned from Dr. Kiger, there are certain boundaries that are there to bless us.
Yeah.
They're not sanctions against living. And so being able to present that to them, help them to buy in. The other thing I learned is that, and all this comes bit by bit, is that change is an ongoing process, as is maturation. And so we're at a time and place in young people's lives where they're growing, their brain is developing, their understanding is fleeting. And so, but if I could give them an experience that they would remember, that would blueprint their life at this point in time, whether they took that and used it right then wasn't as important as that they had had it.
Yeah.
And certainly that comes from the whole idea of parenting, doesn't it? We raise our children a certain way. We we have traditions and
Mm-hmm.
morals and things, and we teach them.
Yeah.
And we live by them. Well, that was an extension of the family system. Insert that into the lives of everyone that you have in common with, and they buy into it. And you may walk out of the program and go back out and reoffend or reabuse or what have you. That doesn't mean you're a failure.
Right.
I also learned that the problems were the problems. The people were not.
Mm-hmm.
They never were. Problems arise. Things happen. You can adopt a life filled with problems if you want to, and you can become a criminal or whatever you want. Or you can also adopt a life with other things and become and fulfill who you really are. So therein lies the power of agency. But how can you choose if you never have experience?
Yeah.
My own life has had its catastrophic blows. Losing two children to suicide awakened me like you could not believe to all the thoughts that one might have. What did you do wrong? What could you have done differently? And it led me to soul search in a way that was humbling to the core. And I learned from that it's the same thing for you, Karl, as it is for them. You have a choice. You have a choice to rise above this. But it wasn't alone. And when serious things like that happen, it will either crush you or you'll grow through it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's never done alone. And were it not for you, your family, the Telos family, my personal family, and my relationship with the Almighty,
Mm-hmm.
we'd be lost. And so therein, I was also learning more about the healing process, how ongoing that is, and how tender and merciful it is. A year ago, after 10 years of battling cancer, my wife passed away after 54 years of marriage. And I think, oh my gosh, here it goes again. You know, come on, Jonas, swallow me up with your whale.
Mm-hmm.
And the healing process goes on. And I'm able to see with a clearer perspective. The tears kind of wash your eyes clear and you can see better how magnificent life and how precious it is. And that We all need each other in a way. Of all the things, excuse me, that the Telos ultimate thing standard as represented to me is that of a sense of unconditional love and focus on the worth of the individual. And if that is there and that person feels that, then healing takes place. Dealing with grief, loss, divorce, trouble, whatever it is, there's a way through that. Illnesses, if that sense of unconditional love is expressed and felt by a person. And that's the truth. And it works. And I watch with awe that happening in the lives of the people that we associate with here. Young people who come here with their parents, desperate, years of, desperation over what do we do? How are we going to get through this? And with that unconditional love comes the hope.
Yeah.
I have a box of tools here, and I'm going to show you how to use them. And this tool works for this, and this tool works for this. Now, I can't make you use them. I can't even make you open the toolbox. But if you will, and use this, the power of regular communication, spending time together, wholesome time together, doing wholesome activities, take care of your own body and be kind to yourself, which has to do with the worth of an individual, doesn't it? Then healing takes place. And so all that has gone into at least my journey, partially. Now, those are the more desperate things. Inside of that are magnificently happy moments. And even from the most depressing, sad, there is peace and joy. But one doesn't understand that until you experience it. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But it happens.
And it happens to all of us, right?
It does.
I mean, that's the...
Yeah, it's painful to see children experience it. And sometimes there are things that happen in their lives that should never happen. They should never be abused.
Right.
They should never feel ill of themselves because of what somebody else is saying. And that's regulated and taught by parents and family members. And once that comes out of that family, that stays with you.
Yeah.
For good. And unfortunately, we live in a world where not everyone has that. But there are ways of supplementing that with therapy, extended family, friends, associates. How many people, Greg, have come to you learning to wrestle,
right,
and being healed from something else?
Yeah, like
it just happens.
It's just a way to help to help people make it through life.
Yeah,
Karl, you and I, we've been in our communities for a long time, and when the suicides happen, when the family traumas happen, and I get sought out often, and I typically just say, call Karl. Not because I don't know what to do or say, and just this last week, that I, went in to help a family with a suicide situation and in our local community, and you were with your family and you couldn't help me, and you buoyed me up, and I reviewed all this, after all these years of being a licensed professional, and my first call is still to you, right? that that this ability that you've had through your life, I think, comes from, your ability to observe and to learn from others and your own experiences, right, with
Correct.
hard times and all the professional training that you've had. Um, your do you believe that? I mean, I don't know how else to ask the question. Do you believe that you have a gift, or do you think it's all just in your brain because you're smart?
No, I believe people are endowed with gifts, all kinds of gifts. They're there, and sometimes it's like an artist.
Mm-hmm.
They might be able to draw stick figures in the beginning, but they learn the elements of that talent and they have a passion for it. And before long, they're painting portraits.
Yeah.
I do believe people have insights and talents. Uh, my personal life, I've just come to realize that I have a sensitivity to what other people feel. Sometimes I feel that before I even know them.
Yeah.
And with that always comes a very sense of humility to realize, you know, who that person is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how great they are, and perhaps you can help them understand that. Because, and I think that with that is kind of a personal spiritual direction you feel, and that's guided my own life and decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to look into the face of someone and get a sense for maybe what's going on or what they may need, it's a combination of your experience, but it's also a sense to connect with them
Yeah.
and to help them grow past it. Little did I realize in doing that, I also heal myself
Right.
from whatever ills there are.
Yeah. I've been cautious about calling you because of your own trauma, right? You're a therapist. You specialize in trauma. You've worked the vast majority of your career in suicide prevention, like I have, and then to lose two children,
Right,
right? Um, I lost my sister, right? We've collectively known many people,
right.
right, who have fallen to that fate. But yet I still keep calling, and you keep telling me the same thing, that it's part of your healing too, right? That you lean into it, and I
Absolutely.
feel the same way. I feel the
Yeah.
same way. Why is it that in your groups that you won't let people in sometimes? Like I know you have some pretty strict rules. If you've got a group of 4 or 5 teenagers and maybe a staff or a therapist, but sometimes you're like, no, I don't want you set those boundaries. What's the mentality of saying you're not allowed into my survivors group?
Well, first of all, emotional safety
Mm-hmm.
and is so big. I have learned that the secrets that are kept in a person's heart are very difficult to unlock, and they don't sometimes. Those groups has the potential for group dynamic of opening several people's hearts by virtue of one courageous person, a student, who may have not said anything about whatever they have to another soul on this earth, which happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so I maintain a very strict integrity of I'm not going to go do your work for you, but I'm going to hold what you say as confident as I can in my own heart. If I find out that there's something that needs to be reported, that needs to be moved from this room to somewhere else, guess who should do that?
Mm-hmm.
It's you.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be with you, or this group will be with you. Now that forms an alliance and a bond and a belief. Because, for example, our young students that are here in the particular survivors group that was running just before I came in here, that's the very first thing they think.
Yeah.
They'll tell you flat out, I'm not going to talk.
Right.
Okay. I say, okay, but I hope you do.
Right.
And I encourage you, but could you tell me why you won't talk? Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
And they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Are you going to go tell my therapist? No.
Right.
If I find that there is something that's the one thing is if it's a sense of harm to yourself or others, then we're going to walk out of here together and take care of that.
Yeah.
You will,
Right.
because it helps you to heal.
Yeah.
And sometimes the events that happen to young people almost paralyze them. They can't speak, they can't talk, they don't know the anxiety and fear associated with it to just get it out. They even think sometimes if I talk about it, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You hear all these misnomers, not just from children, but from adults. And what some of that adversity does to people really skews how you think clear.
Yeah.
And so I want to be transparent with them, but to realize that they're safe. So I don't allow student interns to come in.
Right.
I don't allow residential staff to come in.
Right.
And I say, if somebody comes in, I'm going to get your approval first. And it may be Craig Lamont wants to come in and share his insight with you today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why is he coming in? I says, would you like to ask him?
Right.
Because he'll be honest with you and tell you, I wouldn't ask him to come here. That sort of open dialogue,
Right.
they begin to respond to you.
Because I've always appreciated that your group is the most protected group on campus, right? And
Okay.
not very many people speak outside of that room about what goes on in the room, but everyone's, 20 years later, 10 years later, 5 years later, everyone's always like, oh, thanks to Karl, I was able to do this or that, right? And so we really appreciate that. Karl, um, in closing, most of our listeners are families. They're typically parents. Now, not all of we have a lot of listeners, but
Right.
most of them, and really the the initial vision for this podcast was to be able to provide support for families, right? For parents who have children who are struggling. They're afraid that they're going to die from suicide, or they're afraid that they're going to die from an accident, or they're afraid that they're not going to be functional, or that they're going to be, or that they're just even afraid just because it's just so hard. They just don't know where to turn. So with those parents in mind, whether they can afford to come here or not, or have the opportunity to come here or not, what's one piece of advice that you can give to a parent who's either struggling themselves and or struggling with a child when it comes to um, healing from trauma? Just capture one gem, and maybe you've already said it, but maybe just
Hope. Hope is the one ingredient that if you can instill that in an individual and nurture it, will carry a person to do what they need to do. Hope as a parent that things will get better, and they will. They can.
mm-hmm.
Hope that everything that you dreamed about has not been lost. Hope that you'll be strong enough to weather the storm ahead. And patience. Being patient. And that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because as a parent, You hold your breath as your child goes through difficult situations. And sometimes it's like a roller coaster, up and down and up and down. And it wears on you. And you almost get to the point, well, what difference does it make?
Mm-hmm.
Throw your hands in the air. Maybe that's the beginning of something good, because you're giving up that expectation that it has to be now.
Mm-hmm.
When, in the large scheme of things, time has a way of healing, so does experience, and so does the worth of that individual. And so consequently, that hope springs eternal, and being patient with people is such an important thing. And I would also say to parents or students or anyone else that struggles, please be kind to yourself. If you don't know what that means, there are people around that can help you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a parent feeling the desperations, you're not alone. There are those around you who will walk the walk with you as you heal and as you grow. And I have not seen almost anything that didn't have a solution to it, given that hope,
Mm-hmm.
patience, and using the tools. And miracles happen. Allow the miracles to happen, because they do. And sometimes those things are not explained very clearly.
Right.
But the worth of that individual is infinitely important. And when you want that for you,
Yeah.
if you were struggling, that to someone to put their arm around your shoulder and say, I love you, and mean it, and I'll walk the walk with you because you need it and you want it, and the sun will come up, this too will pass, and life will continue to bring peace and joy. And that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's worth it.
Yeah. Well, I'd say that's pretty solid advice. So thank you for that. Do you want to do, I think I know your life pretty well. I don't know that you've got books or websites up to self-promote. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to write a book called Just Around the Bend, and I've got stuff about it, but I'd take these river trips
Yeah.
and the people that were on board with me. That's when we really got some good stuff.
Yeah.
Karl, when are we going to stop? And I would just tell them, just
Around
around the bend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, when are we going to be done? Well, just around the bend. So it kept them going.
Yeah.
And, but I like to read information that comes out on healing from trauma. I turn to other experts for their ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many good, positive books that are there. You could find them. And Telos is a resource to you. If you need support, you can find it here. There are agencies in the community, your churches, your rehab centers and other places have resources there for you. And maybe your next door neighbor does too.
Yeah. So just don't give up the hope.
Don't give up the hope.
And keep going.
Oh yes,
That's good.
and we all will.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for, giving your life decades to the service of others. Thousands of people, literally thousands, not just a figure of speech for you, but so I speak for thousands to say thank you for the work that you've done in your life and for being on our podcast. So to our guests, until next time, remember, mental health matters.
Thanks for listening. Your mental health journey is so important to us. We'd love your help spreading the word so we can reach as many people as possible. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe here, on our social media, or wherever you access your podcasts. Thanks.